I don't know how we come to understand what it means to be an organizational leader. I think that maybe and I'm gonna tell you, I have not read a lot of leadership books, to be honest with you. Like,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
because they all sound sort of similar, and I'm not sure if I get a lot of insight from them.
Hmm.
But I wonder if people are just getting bad coaching on
Hmm.
what it means to be, because leadership is just being a human. It's about passion and caring about something enough that you are motivated to get to a result, and
Right.
that motivation can be through your own you know drive and tools that you use. It can be through motivating and inspiring others to
Hmm.
see the vision that you have. But those things don't mean that you have to leave your humanity at the door. And I would
Hmm.
love to see a brand of leadership you know, that can balance those two things. Because frankly, a lot of people, to the point that we were making last time we talked, are just showing up not whole. And the
Hmm.
burnout that we see right now is a direct result of us trying to put on, a leadership sort of cloak that doesn't
Hmm.
fit right. Like, you got to
Hmm.
find your own way to leadership. So, anyways, we'll talk about that, I guess.
Yeah, for sure, for sure, for sure. I like that. Yeah, I mean, especially with the work I do, I like that. If we could touch on that too, of that. I think. Okay, here's what it is. You just described it. Is that there's this idea of this is what a leader looks like. It's like part Marlboro Man, part Don Draper, right? Like it's like this thing, right? And then
Right.
and then whether or not someone is viewed as a leader is sort of like, well, how well do they approximate this construction we have?
That's exactly it.
Whereas leading is a function. And so
Absolutely.
it can be done a number of ways. And I think that brings us back around to why, specifically Black women, but I think different types of groups end up being left out of the leadership conversation because how they would or do it isn't viewed as like, oh, well, that doesn't look like, you don't look like
And
Lee
let me
Iacocca putting out a book. So,
And actually, I'm going to agree with you, but also nuance it a little bit.
hmm.
I think the reason specifically that Black women get left behind is because our leadership styles and dynamics actually do look a lot like what white men's look like. And
Oh,
they don't like that because that's the racism and sexism, which
oh,
is, I don't expect a woman. So for example,
mm.
let's get into it. Let's get into it.
Yeah,
People
yeah, let's
join, they
go.
join.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But like, as an example, like, um, Black women are often sort of castigated for being very direct. Like, what we gonna do, what we not gonna do, and
Right, right,
you
right,
know
right.
if and if you grew up in Black communities, you just know that's like, so a lot of Black women are gonna come at you like that. They're not
Mhm.
necessarily wrong. It's just a lot of energy, because what we're not going to do is sit here and pretend that the
Mhm.
path that has been set out, like maybe the strategy that the company is employing, it seems a little wonky, or tactics that we might be shoveling down the pike might not be right. And so other people in the room, non-Black women, will be like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, I'll go
Mhm.
tell
Mhm.
my team.
Mhm.
Black women be like, say what now? what
Right.
what are we doing? Why
What
are
am
we
I
doing
supposed
that?
to? Right.
It's a directness. Now, if Chad had said,
Mhm.
guys, I just don't think this is the right thing to do, everybody was like, well, Chad, tell us more about that. But when Tanya
Mhm.
tells you, are we doing
Right.
that? Doing
Right.
now, because you see us as women,
Mhm.
and women shouldn't talk to people that directly. So I think the reason that Black women get a lot of flack is that the expectation of what a woman should be saying is coming
Mhm.
out of her, is actually not coming out of her mouth. She's looking a lot more direct, like, man, and they don't like that at all. Mm-mm.
the word that just came to mind, and you tell me where it fits into this, if at all, as you describe that, is submit. And I
Yeah,
choose that word very intentionally. And tell me your reaction to that, and yeah, how that plays into all this.
absolutely. That's why the roles that Black women play in corporate America are just so fraught, because
Mm,
this submit thing, which is at the undergird, and I don't know. I mean, even well-intentioned white male leaders, I
sure.
don't think of it directly,
Hmm.
but systematically, what's been happening is that you expect something different from women. You expect women to be softer, to not be that direct. And I think
Hmm.
that that Black women are just not, we are not, we're not born and raised in the same, reared in the same,
Hmm.
frame. And so it
Hmm.
just causes flashpoints at work all the time, because they don't know what to do with us. Like, they know that we're not acting like what they would perceive a woman
Hmm.
to act like.
Hmm.
Um, it is, and there's a dissonance here, like, and they're angry about it. Like, how dare you? How dare you
So
sit in this room and tell us, whatever?
right now, you touched a couple of things there. The anger I want to come back to for sure because I think it's a very big deal actually.
Yeah.
But it seems to me part of you and I have had several conversations about black women in the workplace and just it seems to me that there's this can't win situation, and the can't win situation is if you were to shape yourself into that whatever you think person, you're going nowhere. You're going nowhere in anybody's organization. You're going nowhere. But when you step to the other side and say, okay, well, if what we're doing here is being executives and I need to say what I have to say, then I'm going to say it. If you also encounter anger there, then what's your way out? So I'm wondering, how did you manage to win in a can't, what feels like a can't win situation, or maybe I've got that wrong. And then, yeah, what's your thought on how to like shift that?
Well, the problem is that I recognized the game I needed to play very early on,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm actually, so I'm speaking out of two sides of my neck.
Mm,
Learning to tone down that directness and be more feminine, quote unquote, in the
right.
way that I deliver, and being what they assume a woman leader should look like. I did
Mm-hmm.
those things and it worked. I moved up the ranks and all of this stuff, but it did not fulfill me. So you're going
Mm,
to a pre-post that was before, and now that I have experience and leadership and a track record of success under my
mm-hmm.
belt.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to try something a little different, which is that, like, so leadership qualities like having vision and being able to communicate really well and being an inspiration, all everybody should have those as a
Sure.
leader.
Sure.
The skill sets I've learned that Black women particularly bring to the table that are also very good, but are very sort of unique and specific to Black women. Like I said, that ability to prioritize,
Mm-hmm.
ain't nobody got time for that. We not
Right.
doing that. We doing this. Like,
Right.
that is very unique to, not unique, but the ability to just cut through the bullshit and say,
Mm-hmm.
this is what's important to do, and this is what I'm, charging my teams to get accomplished. And yes, this other side project, Mr. CEO, and this other project, Mr. CMO, we're happy to consider those, but right now, this is what
This
my
is where
team is.
we are.
That ability to prioritize, I think we Black women have a unique skill set in order to be able to kind of focus. This is what we doing. We ain't doing that other stuff. Um,
I'm sorry, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
the directness, like,
Mm-hmm.
we're not gonna do, like that. This, that ability. Again, everybody can have directness, but I notice it a lot in Black
Mm-hmm.
women where
Right.
we have a comfort level with being sort of honest. And I don't, yeah, directness may be off-putting to people. There's this
Sure.
honesty in what we're doing,
Right.
even if it means um, being met with a little bit of, like, disappointment. So, for example, if I know that we're not going to hit our quarterly targets for a program or a campaign or something. And
Mm-hmm.
I've been in rooms where grown folk will be like, I ain't saying nothing. I ain't telling nobody. We just gonna sit here. And I just be looking around like, but
I know. I know y'all see what I see.
what do we
Right.
do? Like, let's not act like a thing is a thing. This thing is
Mm-hmm.
happen. So
Mm-hmm.
what we need to do is figure out how to turn and course correct this around. You know what I mean? So that ability to be like, I know it's going to be uncomfortable for me to say this, but it has to be said because I care
Mm-hmm.
about this organization. I care about the work.
Mm-hmm.
And if I sit here silent because I'm afraid to be the person who gets their head cut off, from the king, if I tell
Mm-hmm.
bad news, that's not helping anybody. So that directness is important. Empathy. I think Black women have the reason that we can be direct is because we're not being direct to be assholes. We're being
Mm-hmm.
truly do care about this. Like there is it's kind of like when your mom and your mom is like getting you together. She's getting
Yeah.
you together because she absolutely cares about your success. So if I did, let me tell you where you need to worry with Black women is when we
Mm-hmm.
start shutting up. Do it yourself. Yeah, you want it. You want that.
You know, so you right. You know everything. Right, right. I've been in that position, and I feel it happen. You go, oh no, I'm on the wrong road, and
So if you've got Black women who are quiet and not sort
Mhm,
of weighing in and having a point of view, then that
mhm,
as an organization you've got some problems because Black women are like, look, I'm gonna tell you what it is and what it ain't. And then the fourth thing I think Black women have that is unique and specific to them is the resiliency, and that's just born from our history.
mhm,
Like we
mhm,
are resilient people. So what if the quarterly targets that you set aren't going to be reached? Are you going to go cry and break down and throw a
mhm,
fit or no? Like we just gonna
mhm.
figure out another way to get around this. That is
Mhm.
that's
Have heard.
right as a Black woman
Mhm, mhm,
to be resilient and deal with adversity. So I think those characteristics are needed by all leaders, but they are
mhm.
typically exhibited strongly by Black women.
You know, it's in that last piece, and as happens with us, I'm like, wait, but I wanted to go down this road, and I want to go down that road, right? But I love that piece that you're offering there at the end around the resiliency and how it's born of the history, because I think also away some of the honest, and I like honesty because I think you're right. Directness is a word that has like developed a little
Yeah.
thing to it. It seems to me that even what we call a team player, and I use sort of a very royal we there, it doesn't lend itself to the way, as you're describing it, Black women might show up most effectively on a team. I
Hmm.
appreciate you telling me, right? There's something on my shoe. There's like whatever. I need that. And I think a lot of times we live in a you mustn't say that culture, which is what I always call it. It's not that it's not like that. It's not that that's not true. It's that you mustn't say that.
Right.
And I'm wondering how once in leadership, how do you create a culture on your teams or more organizationally if you can to move away from you mustn't say that to actually you must say that. If you see it, you must say that.
Absolutely. I mean, I say exactly that. Now, and again, I have more control over my direct teams,
Sure.
or the people that I influence. It's harder to do it up, and I'd love for us to brainstorm how we do this up better.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
If I'm being honest with you, I am not good at it going up.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
I only know how to do what I know how to do, which is to be honest and direct. And when you are encouraging, for example, your direct reports, like I tell people, there is absolutely nothing you can say to me that is going to infuriate me if you're coming from an honest place. If you're coming
Mm-hmm.
from a driven place and an honest place. So if I get on and I say a bunch of stuff and I'm leading or saying something and you pull me into the side and be like, Ladonna, X, Y, and Z, that was, then I'm going to be appreciative of you. It's like the
Mm-hmm.
old church saying, girl, your slip is showing. Let me know my slip is showing. Let me know
Mm-hmm.
have fallen short of understanding or
Mm-hmm.
of having a full picture. I think of that as, again, team. I think of that as teamwork.
Mm-hmm.
Like teamwork is you don't let your teammates slip show. You don't let me walk into a battle unprepared. And I
Yeah.
won't let you walk into a battle unprepared.
Right.
So it's a lot like people think, I don't know what people think leadership is, but leadership is about being a servant. That is the key,
Yes.
and if I'm not serving the people who I am charged with leading, then I'm not a leader. That's not what
Mm-hmm.
it is. And being a servant to them means, doing the work that you do, coaching and giving training, making sure that you have an open door policy. I spend the vast majority of my day actually coaching people on how to do jobs better. I would probably say 10% of my day is done doing something strategic and,
Mm.
most of my day is because here's the thing. I hire people who are brilliant,
Mm.
much smarter than me, and I
Mm-hmm.
let them do their thing. And I go, okay, maybe you should think about this, or this is a
Mm-hmm.
priority, and how does this align? And I just kind of help people figure out how to bring their brilliance to bear because
Sure.
I'm trying to find my replacements. And
Mm.
so I'm always sort of like finding the best and trying to hire the most talented people so they can replace me. That's the goal.
Mm-hmm.
But and
Mm-hmm.
I'm not intimidated by that. I want people to grow and to develop. And so if you're not serving people in that way, I
Yeah.
think servant heart is the most important characteristic of a leader. And if
Yeah.
you don't have that, if you're thinking about how can I make my ambitions grow and how can
Right.
and don't get me wrong, we all are ambitious, but
Sure. Sure.
you got to understand your ambitions or getting to your ambitions are only driven by the people that you coach and lead. And so if
Right.
you're a servant to them,
Again, I'm curious on that servant piece because I couldn't agree with you more. And I get the sense that's not where we, kind of started this conversation. That's not, I don't get the sense that, and this is an old reference, but it just keeps coming to mind. I don't get the sense that the Marlboro man is like, hey, you might want to do this with your saddle, right? Like, he's like, I figured it out, you figure it out.
yeah, you follow me. I've got the answer. Yeah, let's go.
So yeah, how do you see it actually showing up sometimes when it works, the servant piece, and maybe this transitions us into the doing this work up. How do we convince more people or show more people that this really is a more effective way to go? Because I just think that top down version, I don't know that it was ever the best, but I certainly don't think it's the best now.
Yeah, I mean, these are the real hard questions, right? Like I mean, the way that I think that people appreciate my style. So for example, if there's going to be a big share out to the muckety mucks at the top,
Mm-hmm.
I pull team members in to represent the point of view of my team. Like I rarely deliver the message, and I do that on purpose because, frankly,
Mm-hmm.
most organizations are very hierarchical. You
Yeah.
know, the CEO is only talking to his team. His team is only,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and so there doesn't get it's hard to get a lot of exposure for your more senior team members
Mm-hmm.
if you don't give them the exposure. Like they've
Right.
got to be on. So somebody's given me an opportunity to wear the mantle of a senior director or vice president or SVP or whatever it is.
Sure.
My job and the way
Mm-hmm.
that I do it is to say, look at all this talent on the bench. Let's pull people up and get them exposure. And so they get to shine outside of me.
Mm-hmm.
So I think so for me, making sure that you've got to prove your merit
Sure.
as a leader. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not like everybody just go do my job and I'm just gonna sit here like a quiet mama.
Right. You go on, baby. Right, right, right.
No, you've got to also prove that you have work. But my point is, I think the servant part for me, because the way organizations work is who gets sort of whoever can get that face time and get that
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
on air time is likely to be the person who to be remembered when it's time to start handing out promotions. It's
Mm-hmm.
extremely important for me to make sure
Mm-hmm.
that people are always auditioning. And if they don't want to, that's fine too. Some people like individual contributors and say, look, I'm just going to run this data analysis. I'm going to send it to you. You do whatever you want to do with it. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's
That's
fine.
fine.
You don't have ambition to do whatever. But for those people who have indicated, hey, I really have an ambition to be, to get,
Right.
then I'm going to give them the opportunity. Now, with senior leaders, I don't know, and I need your help. Like, I have no idea how to
Hmm.
convince them that this is a model that really works for inclusivity, for making people feel like particularly when you get to higher levels in organizations, it's not like those roles come open every 5 minutes. You're not
Right.
going to be plopping people into VP roles, every six
Right.
months.
Sure.
Not that many of those roles. And so, how do you keep a workforce feeling motivated and inspired when the actual positional leadership roles, there just aren't that many of them? So
Right.
you've got to do something, and I want senior leaders to understand this. You've got to do something to make people feel like they are contributing in a valuable way, that they're getting recognized for their contributions, whether that
Hmm.
be through positions, and if not positions, you still got to pay them.
Yeah.
Keep people pay increases and giving them, giving some sort of remuneration for
Hmm.
the work that
Hmm.
they're doing. But I feel like I'm rambling, but the idea
No,
that
yeah.
no, but the idea that like, how do we get people to recognize all the types of leaderships, um, and see for themselves the value of those leaderships? I think it's really difficult. It's hard.
If you're open to it, and we did not plan this whatsoever, I would love to do like a quick little exercise using a little bit of the align methodology just to see. So we're gonna place you in VP role,
I like
and we're gonna try to, get this to work going up to the CEO, and let's see where we land. So I guess the first thing would always be, what's the point? So if you were able to get leaders above you all the way up to the CEO to see this servant leader piece, to see this need for inclusion and bringing people in, I guess what would an organization look like where that was achieved?
What would it look like for an organization to understand and recognize and respect servant leadership?
Absolutely.
For me it would be an organization where your senior leaders also exhibited the behavior of servant leadership. So
Mm,
that is, you know, um, rather than asking, and I'm not saying rather than, because they have to ask what were the results, what are the
sure,
results.
sure, sure.
But rather than going to results orientation first,
Hmm.
start asking the question, what do you need? What can I do to support you getting these results? And I think
Hmm.
kinds of what do you need questions help to start unearthing the needs in the organization. So, for example, I may say, "Ooh, my junior line manager marketers are showing a little bit of they're not as qualified or capable when it comes to quantification of analysis." So,
Okay.
and I would like to send them to an offsite training where we focus on you know what I mean? I may ask for training help,
Right, right.
resources to be able to help get the capabilities up to what we
Hmm.
need so that we can reach your goal. Because again,
Okay.
reaching the goal is the goal. We
Sure, absolutely.
got to produce the results. There is no workaround to that. I guess what I'm saying for servant leadership is understanding what obstacles are in people's way to
Right.
reach, instead of saying, "Oh, you're just not good at your job," or "You're just you're slacking off," or in the intent is important. I think most people who show up at work want to do a good job. They
Absolutely right.
clear direction. They need resources and skill tools to build their skill set to reach those, and
Hmm.
the confidence to say, "Listen, many of my team members, even after I've given them, coaching or training, still may not succeed." And
Hmm.
and I am also, this goes back to the empathetic about that. Hey,
Hmm.
we're going to do it better next time. You know,
Hmm.
the ability to have patience with human beings. You know,
Hmm.
we talked about earlier the physical conditions I'm going through right now. Like if I showed up and I was off my game for whatever reason,
Hmm.
I want someone to say to me, "Hey, what's going on? You okay?"
You're right.
You all right? But like this hyper fixation on just the bottom line and not
Mm-hmm.
taking into consideration the humanity of individuals.
Right.
Like people come with all kinds of shit on their brain. Like
Mm-hmm.
my kid is failing out of school, or my husband, is distant to me, or I'm going through menopause, or whatever it is that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
People bring those things into work. So if we're not hitting our performance goals,
Mm-hmm.
the diagnostic leaders,
Mm-hmm.
hey, what could be causing us other than just rampant inability to do the work,
Sure,
which I'm
sure.
assuming you hired well. But if you remove that skepticism, there is
Mm-hmm.
some reason that we're not able to achieve our goals. And your job as a leader, as a servant leader, is to, with generosity and kindness, try to diagnose what you can do to give people what they need to reach those goals.
I love that you use the word generosity there. And actually, I'm gonna hope that we can. Oh, hold on. We have a visitor for a few minutes.
Oh, Carissa Campbell.
There she is.
Hey, Carissa.
Hello, darlings. How
I
you
was
doing?
like, are you on the beach? What is going on? I see
I
you.
would love to be on the beach. It is. I'm just creating beach in my life.
I see that. I see that. I was gonna say. I was like, the lips are going on. I was like, okay, okay.
Yeah, that's a whole. Don't even worry about all that. That's a whole other thing. That nothing exciting.
We're talking about the ways that Black women lead or people lead, and how we can influence, more senior leaders to really care about servant leadership. You know,
Mm-hmm.
giving people what they need in order to get what we need, which is the results, the bottom line, the
Mm-hmm.
share price, the whatever, the sales numbers, whatever the target is that organizations are looking for. You are not
Mm-hmm.
going to be able to achieve that without having a disposition towards servant leadership.
Not
And
now, especially.
yeah, especially
so so coming back to that in terms of where you were, it seems to me that that way of being, that way of saying, okay, we didn't hit, why, what else could be at play here. um it feels to me like it makes business sense too. Like it's not like a nice thing to do. It's like you're gonna fire somebody who probably could have done the job
yes,
because you're not figuring out how to help them be in a position to win. And as a sports coach, that's like number one for me. Put these people in a position to win. So yeah, what would it? Well, I'll ask it this way: how could we show up in our organizations in a way that elicits more of that from leadership?
hmm I think the quality we talked about with Black women before, which is the being direct,
Mm-hmm.
extremely important. And what I mean by direct, because I don't necessarily mean just be firing off. There's a way to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
But
Right, sure.
I do think, within the auspices of we want this to be a well-run organization, and we want to achieve our goals. Helping senior managers understand, like you said, the benefit or the bottom line impact of servant leadership.
Mm-hmm.
For example, senior leaders, it's not a secret that around the world, senior leaders in corporations are very highly compensated.
Sure.
So, but at the line manager level, at the new employee level, they ain't getting the kind of money you getting. So you want them to care about these results the same way you care about these results when you are being compensated at 100x. Their
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
makes sense to me. So
Mm-hmm.
we have got to employ these types of servant leadership characteristics, because you're not paying them to
Mm-hmm.
paying them at the rate that you're paying yourself is what
Sure. Mm-hmm.
and so I say, for organizations who are not willing to drastically up their compensation packages,
Mm-hmm.
this is a way that you actually can endear people to the organization without having to up your compensation pack.
Right.
Like, People are humans. Listen to them. Care about what they need. Give them some grace. Give them dignity. You know, allow me to go off camera if I'm spitzing all over the place because I'm going through menopause. Like, be a compassionate human being. Because frankly, and I'm being honest with you, I have had wonderful results because I only have so much compensation wiggle room with my team. Like, HR or the business leadership is going to say, this is what you got to give people this year. Go
figure it out, right?
So it's like this much, right? I have the lever of money to influence people's behavior. So all that is my charm and smile and wit, honey. And I think senior leaders forget that because they are so highly compensated. They're like, well, of course I'm going to work, 80 hours and of course I am. Well, yeah, you are. You make, 1.2 million a year.
Right.
I don't. So help me understand what's in it for me with and frankly, again, I'm not saying I do think that compensation should be revisited, but if it's not through compensation, then it's got to be through something else. And what are you giving people to inspire them to want to hit those goals?
And I think part of the compensation conversation, and we're about at a half hour of the conversation, so I'm actually feeling like maybe we pick this up in a subsequent conversation. But if the compensation is a way we essentially keep score.
Yeah.
I actually do think that a servant leader model demands a revisiting of scale. And it wasn't always that the people at the top made, 100x. This is like, sometimes we live and we start feeling as if, like I say to people, my children will never know a world where a phone don't take a picture. I'm like, listen, let me tell you something about a phone, okay? Because you bang your finger against that metal thing enough times, you'll find out. So, so I think we have this idea that, like, well, of course, Jeff Bezos is going to be on a yacht that has to be carried around, that they have to take down a bridge to get where it's going. But the people who work for him are figuring out how to eat. I think there is something in us saying, no, that's not. Why are we viewing it that way? And why is that okay for the rest of us as we look at the organization? Why wouldn't we be saying, like, wait, hold on a second. How could it be that the Walton family got folk working for them on food stamps? And really have a conversation around the implications of that.
Right. And and when I talk about being direct, those kinds of direct conversations is what I am unafraid to have. And I understand why people are afraid to have. I mean, it's a very, small R Republican discussion. What do the people deserve? What is the right of the people? As I'm getting older, I'm getting a lot more sort of motivated by small R Republicans, and so, but bringing those ideas to bear in an organization is tricky. It's very, very tricky. People don't want to give up the goods. Like, they just don't want to. And so my thing is, I'm taking the argument away. And I'm not saying it shouldn't be had.
Sure.
Argument away from comp because, that's a tricky subject with rich people. I get it. So can we then say, if you're not willing, Bezos, to give up yacht money, why don't you consider this instead? And this servant leadership, compassion, generosity, training, coaching, mentoring for people to feel inspired by the work they do. Like the inspiration I have as a middle, line manager, just starting out in my career, how do I make that line manager feel as invested in the goals of this company as Bezos is in his rocket ship, right? When we can, and I think the next conversation we have really should into that, because that's the crux. Bezos got a rocket ship. What you get to LaQuisha on the line manager? Like, what are we doing? Because
absolutely
something has to happen. Because what the Great Resignation is for me is people being like, wait a minute. What? And frankly, Orlando, I'm surprised it's taken people this long.
Seriously.
It's insane. So
now, Carissa, I see the hand up. I'm going to come to you. What was your comment, question?
To what Ladonna is pointing to, that's actually a question I asked in my last position. We were in a roundtable with the CEO, and I said, I'm looking for some information on this. Like, what is the incentive for me to go do anything more than what I'm doing and invest it in this organization? There
Right.
is none. There
Right.
wasn't the education tuition reimbursement was maybe $5,000, which is fine. That's enough for like a certificate or a personal development course. But
Right.
what is the benefit of me going to better me to be here when I don't see a line for me here? I don't see a place for me to plant my flag. I don't see how what I'm doing is going to give me an opportunity. And I don't even see where I fit. Like, there's no diversity here. There's like, these are the things that are missing. Why would I plant my flag and like want to be here while I'm doing this job? And then beyond that, when I was like seeking out, hey, can I take this course? Where's this money? It was like, oh, one person can approve that and we have to backfill the position because they quit. So you're not giving me not only not giving me a reason to do it, you're also now not giving me what I need to do it. Why would I want to be here? Like, I'm going to do my job and I'm going to leave, and I'm going to do the bare minimum now, because other than compensation that I get to create because I was in sales, there's no other reason for me to decide to want to be here. And people are telling me that there's no benefit to being here beyond this. There's no money here. The environment, like, you're not giving what you think you're giving.
So
Basically.
I'm sorry, Ladonna, just real quick follow-up. I'm curious what kind of, if any, response you got to that. I'm just curious, in the moment or even beyond the moment, was there any reaction to that?
I think he took it in, and at that point, I think I had been at the company maybe 90 days. And I said, this is what I'm noticing. I don't see a path here. For me and my team, I'm a seasoned employee, even if I'm not seasoned here. I'm not new, I'm not 20. So I'm coming with something completely different. I don't even know how to move around if I wanted to. Oh, and I'm identifying things that this person who's been here 3 years just complained about. Like, those are things I'm experiencing having never been in the office and only being here 90 days. So there's something to look at there. And then in a further conversation with one of the execs, she was like, we're a very scrappy team. Global organization, very scrappy team. So there was just some infrastructure that was missing. But you have the head of people was a white woman. And of course, they hired a Black woman to lead diversity, but the entire people team were all white women trying to lead diversity and social justice efforts before they hired the Black woman to do it. What are we doing?
Right, What is that?
How's this working? And not just for diversity, but for diversity in thought.
Right.
Hey, real quick, the fact that you were brave enough in that conversation.
That's it.
What is happening here? That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's the leadership. We were having a discussion about the way Black women lead, Carissa, before. And it's and that fearlessness to be like, hey, I know I've only been here 90 days, but I'm not liking what is given. So what is we doing? That is so important. And it wasn't like you were saying something outrageous, or you just called his mama a bitch, or what. You didn't. You literally were trying to make the organization better. I'm sure somebody went back in the room and was like, that damn Carissa,
she's not a team player.
Not a team player. Who the fuck she thinks she is? You know what I mean? I'm sure
That is hilarious.
But that's
ended up on the DEI council as a result of what I was saying in these meetings.
Really?
I was it wasn't like, there was, I think, 5 of us, and we were the companies, they were doing outward, their outward communication, internal communication, what was happening. And all of this was happening right as coronavirus hit, right as George Floyd hit. All of this was happening at that time. And in those conversations, it was like, hey, would you like to be on the DEI council? And these are the people that were in the meetings to say, you know what, that email was tone deaf. I don't even know what the email said. I know I read it, but it didn't say anything that resonated with me to want to retain it. Okay, what are we talking about regarding this initiative? How are we actually hiring candidates? What are our priorities? What are we putting out? So I ended up doing that that's part of how I was in the meetings, some of the different things beyond that.
Was that fulfilling to you? Did you feel like you had been heard and listened to?
I felt like I had an opportunity to say what other people might not be able to say.
That's good.
I don't know about heard and listened to completely, because there was still a lot of transition. There was a lot of uncertainty. I mean, that was 2020. You're talking in the midst of the global pandemic. and dealing with all the social justice issues. What I wasn't sure, or what I don't know how, because I'm not with that organization anymore, but even when they hired the diversity person, and she was great, is what happened next. But I do know that the experience for many people at that point, like a lot of the people that I knew at that point have left. So I don't really know how that went down.
Got it. No, thank you. That's Actually, I feel like I could do a new half hour now with on this. But I want to be respectful of time, Ladonna. You've been really generous, and I know we went past where we originally said, but it felt like the conversation was on a little bit of a roll there. We will post this video. We're gonna get clearer on the links being where they need to be and all of that. But I really appreciate your time and your insight. And Carissa, thank you. That was it was almost like you were a plant, because you came in and you gave us an example of you leading exactly the way Ladonna had just said, that Black women go into organizations and lead. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you so much. So we'll do it again soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Is this a monthly thing?
It's gonna be monthly, yeah. So we're looking at second Tuesday, and that's what we're trying to make happen. Yep.
The world needs Ladonna in its life. I mean, they need you too, but
All right, cool. We'll talk soon. I appreciate y'all. Take care now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.